You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click your live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV or YouTube under WCEG Network. I'm Wardell Richardson, your show host on WCEG The Hollywood of the South for the next hour. We're the worldwide empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG underscore talk underscore radio. That's WCEG underscore talk underscore radio and WCEG network. That's WCEG network. Last but not least, topics and opinions are those of the show host and guests and not those of WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. I am Wardell Richardson, host of WCEG The Hollywood of the South, welcoming you back again for a hot show right here today. I got an incredible guest who I can't wait to introduce y'all to. But before we get into that, I just want to say, people, there's still a pandemic going on. So please wear your mask. You know, it's still getting results that are kind of high. Even though people are getting the vaccine, that does not mean they can't get the virus. What it does is suppresses it and help people get through it who catches it. So understand the purpose of what's going on. Just because they have a vaccine does not mean you cannot get the virus. Um, I cannot stress that enough. So many people think that when they get the vaccine, that they are immune to getting the virus. That is not the case. There are several cases that are coming out now where people who were going to get tested weekly, who work in the medical field, never had the virus, and after they had the vaccine, some weeks later, guess what? They got the virus after the second dosage. So it is not something that's keeping you from getting the virus. It's something that helps you suppress it and get through it better once you get it. There are some people like myself who had the virus, and I didn't even know I had it. I had no side effects, no anything. I just went and got tested one day just because, and boom, I had it. And I just went ahead and quarantined myself for a couple of weeks, called my job, and took a 2 week vacation. So, that's the way I see it. But it was something that needed to happen, and I made it happen. So, people, please do what you're supposed to do. If you have the virus, take the 14 days, get away from everybody, get yourself together. If you coughing, just go get checked. The tests are free. You can pull up anywhere. They're everywhere. Literally, you can pull up, get a test, and get your results back in 1 to 2 days. Plain and simple. Um, I did it. I've taken the test several times. Of course, it's kind of uncomfortable getting the stick stuck up your nose, but at the end of the day, it's a worthy cause. So please go and get tested if you can. It does great. It's great results with that. Secondly, if you haven't yet, go support your boy. I am on Amazon Prime. I got several movies on there that I'm starring in and also produced. The 30 Day Rule is a romantic comedy that I did. I'm getting a lot of rave reviews about that. Please go check it out. The 30 Day Rule. Also, people have been watching Addiction by Subtraction, which is a psychological film that I did. It's one of the uh, biggest film projects that I did. It was a lot of lines for that project, and it took a lot of work to get it together. But we did that thing, and it's a really good project, and people have been saying it's a great project. So, please go check that out. Also, there's Greed, which is an action film, and Flesh, which is also an action film based off of human trafficking. So, if you haven't seen those, go check them out. They're dope. I'm getting a lot of great reviews on them. The three of the four I produced. The 30 Day Rule, Greed, and Flesh. So, they was fun shooting them, especially the 30 Day Rule. The romantic comedy had a lot of fun. Um, my wife is played by Dominique, who plays in Insecure out in LA. So, she's doing her thing. It's just a great project. So make sure you go check it out. Support me. Support your boy. That's all you got to do. Just go support me. And and also people feel like they just want to get out and just do their thing. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Travel, see the world. Just make sure you protect yourself and everything, and enjoy your life. I want people to live a long, prosperous, healthy life. And there's still, once again, a pandemic out there. I had to keep going back to it because there's some people out here doing some crazy stuff. I've been seeing it all over the news. I've been seeing it out in person. So it's just, please take care of yourself and be aware that there's other people out here that need to be protected as well. So if you don't care about yourself, at least care about the other person. You know what I'm saying? Plain and simple. On that note, I'm going to get to my guest. So I've known this woman for a long time. She is just doing some amazing things. I've been following her. She's an author. She's a screenwriter. I think she did some modeling too. I don't know. We're gonna get into that, but I think she did. But I want to introduce to you Author J M Pozon. How are you today?
Hey, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. I'm wonderful. I'm so glad to have you on because you are a busy woman right now.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on. Thank you for extending the invitation, most definitely.
No problem. No problem. I had to, man. I've been following you. You've been doing your thing. You're an actress, you writer. You just been into a lot of things. So before we get into all the heavy stuff, give people a little bit about who you are, where you from, and how you got where you are today.
Okay, my name is J M Pozon, as he said. I am a four-time self-published award-winning author, actress, and screenwriter. I currently have four books out that I self-published. And yeah, I'm working on scripts right now as well as doing the acting thing. But yeah, that's about it.
Now, did you use to model as well?
Like pre-kids days, probably. Yeah, I did a little bit, but not so much.
I'm surprised because you seem like the model type.
No, I not so much like I did when I was like younger. You going back. I'm not gonna tell my age, Wardell. But pre-kids I did.
Okay, okay. Now, where do you live? What state you live in, and were you born and raised there, or did you move there?
I am based out of Detroit, Michigan, and
Hmm.
I was born here in Michigan. I lived in Cali growing up for a little bit. My parents moved around a bit, back and forth between Cali and Michigan. But yeah, I've been here, ever since elementary school on up.
Okay.
And here,
So, all right, and at some point you got into modeling. You said your younger years, and then that escalated into you being a writer, or which came first?
so actually, I was always a writer, and so here's the thing. I was a really shy kid growing up, believe it or not. I was a nerd. I was a bookworm. And
Okay.
I always found it easier to express myself in written word opposed to speaking verbally. Like I was definitely afraid to like talk. So like even with my parents, opposed to like having conversations, I would like write them long letters. It's like this thing that I used to do
All
growing up.
right.
Um, then I would keep journals. And so like that became kind of like my release and my outlet is that, I would write in my diaries and these journals that I had. And so like, as long as I can remember, writing has always been a form of expression for me.
Okay. And so when you write, are you creating, like, is it fictional, or is it just based off everything you're going through, or just ideas that come across your head?
So it's a little bit of both. Um,
Okay.
like the romance novel that I had, um, I read a quote once where it says basically, if you want to be a great writer, write the story that hasn't been invented yet that you want to read. So
Right.
with the romance novel, that's kind of what I did. Because it was just like I would always, I was big on romance. I was big on reading. And when it came to female African American characters, a lot of times I did not like the way that they were portrayed in books.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted a character that I could identify with. You know, I wanted her to be a strong female lead. I wanted her to be intelligent, articulate, have moral and integrity. So I created the character that I would have, I wanted to see, that I felt like didn't exist in the realm that I was working in.
Okay, and you touched on something that a lot of people talk about, is how the Black woman is portrayed, whether it's on TV or in books. What did you notice how did you notice they were portrayed before you decided to change that up?
So for me, it was always the stereotypical, and even if we look at TV, and I say, the propaganda, because that they do it even with the Real Housewives and all of that.
Right.
So they make us angry a lot of times. They make us uneducated. They make us loud.
Yes.
They make us ghetto. They make us promiscuous.
Yeah.
So all these ideas that they kind of put out there that aren't necessarily the truth. And I wanted to get away from that. And I wanted to have a character that I would look in the mirror and I say, like, I can identify with her. I relate to her.
Got you. So when you write these characters, are they somewhat based off you as a person or things you've experienced?
So it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
So I take some of my own experiences. So I definitely use my life experiences, but I'm a people watcher. So I like to watch other people and the things that other people go through. And so I'll have experiences from things that I see, like my friends or my family or other people around me are going through and how they've handled it. So, I literally use a little bit of both.
Okay. Because I was just, it kind of made me laugh a little, because you say you're a people watcher and then you write romantic novels. I'm just like, okay, all right.
Not like that. Not like that.
I'm just kidding. So what was, when you wrote your first book, what book was that? Or was it the romantic novel?
That was the romantic novel, Setting Fire to the Darkness. And it was definitely a journey. As a first time African-American female author, I mean, I got a lot of no's before I got a yes. And so I came into the game.
It's always
I'm going to be honest, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I did not know, but I was just like, you know what? I'm going to figure it out on the way.
Right.
I was like, I got this idea. And in my mind, I feel like if I have a desire to do something, if I'm given an idea, that is evidence enough for me that is something that God wants me to do.
Absolutely.
So I have no choice but I'm obligated to follow through.
Now that's interesting, because most writers, when they write their first book, it's not a romantic novel. It's something different, because I feel like when people want to write about romance, they feel like they're putting themselves out there and people gonna look at you funny. Do you think that people look at you funny when they read your novels? Like, really? Like,
well, the funny thing is, I already feel like people already have a preset, they already socially construct this image or this ideology of me in their mind, because I do walk the line. I'm a little risque, but I think that's because people view women as one-dimensional. They say that, oh, you can't be this way and you can't be morally sound and still believe in God and religious and be a mother and be family oriented and all these other things. And the thing is, you can.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't, so a lot of times people go off my look and they judge me. So I've never been a stranger to that. And I've always been about breaking the mold. You know me, I like to push the limits. I always run for walking the line. And it's to say that women aren't one-dimensional. We can be multifaceted. I can love God and walk in my 6-inch stiletto heels. Who
All
says
right
I can't?
then.
So, you know,
And
yeah,
that says it says a lot about your character, because a lot of people, you know, are gets in their own way because of those thoughts that they have that you just said.
yeah,
They don't want to do this because they're scared of this, and you
yeah.
just kind of overcame that. You just like, look, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do. I'm putting it all out there.
Absolutely. It's not I tell people all the time, even when approached, like, I tell some of my friends, sometimes when you even meet people from your past, a lot of times
Right.
they want to address you at the level which they remember you at. And
Okay.
if you're not there, if you're grown and you're matured and this is the level that you are, it's not your responsibility to uphold the ideologies that they have of you inside their own mind. That's on them.
Right. Right.
You have the right to grow, you have the right to evolve, and you got the right to progress. And
Wow.
you can't always meet people on the levels that they're at. If you are where you are, and make them rise up to meet you.
Right. And after you did the romantic novel, what was your next book that you wrote?
That was The Whiskey for the Wounded. This one right here.
Okay.
Um, and so that was my poetry. That was my first poetry book.
Okay.
That was the spoken word, and it covered. It's broken down into different life sections. So it's
All
the
right.
deceivers, where we talk about those peoples in your life that are, they come in and they portray themselves as one way. Those are the sheep's,
Right.
in wolves in sheep's clothing. Then it has the griever. So it talks about like all of these different things in life. And that's also the one that has that last section called the 25th hour, where I got
Okay.
into more of the heavier topics, where I talked about social injustice, where we talked about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and just some of the things that was going on in the world around us. So
Yeah.
that was a little bit heavy.
Right.
It's
Right.
my I call it my spiritual catharsis. I definitely feel like Whiskey for the Wounded. It fits his title.
So would it be safe to say that when you wrote this those poetries, would it be safe to say that that was part of you putting like your journal in a book so people can know more of who you are as a person?
I feel like if I had to choose a book that did that,
Okay.
I would have said Stardust.
Stardust.
Like I
Okay.
feel that the most, as far as introspection goes, as far as really knowing me on that kind of level, I think is that one. I feel like that is the one that I've laid myself bare with. That was
Okay.
I wrote it coming off of a very heartbreaking relationship.
Gotcha.
And it was one of those things where I had like this epiphany that I was always in relationships. I'm like a serial monogamist. Like I'm always in relationships from one relationship to the next. I've never just been single and with myself. And what I
Right.
found
Okay.
in that in doing that, I learned so much more about myself just taking a breather, because I got to the point where I
Right.
said, you know what? I want to heal myself, and I want to heal myself in such a way that I make myself better in every way possible. That when God
Right.
does feel like it's time for me to have that person that He's going to put in my life, that I'm giving them a version of me that no one else has had before.
Man, and that's a
So
beautiful thing. I think everybody should do that. Everybody should take a break, especially if you're going through relationships. Like you said, you went through relationship after relationship. You got to take a breath and kind of, you know, wash a lot of that off. Because people, when you're in relationships, their spirits and stuff become a part of you, and you have to get rid of all that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I have one poem called Remnants, where it is literally talking about just that. It talks about soul ties. It talks about the remnants that we leave behind, these imprints and impressions that we
Right.
leave on one another. And what I found is that if you don't heal yourself, even if you think that you healed, and sometimes things that happen and those feelings are things that you thought that you healed from, they will, reveal themselves at the most inopportune times. And just realize, and you'll realize, dang, this is something that's coming back to the surface that I thought that I healed from,
Right.
but obviously I didn't.
Right.
And so a lot of times it's very important to just like take a beat sometimes
Yes.
and make sure that you're fully healed, because a lot of times your relationships aren't working is because you're carrying that trauma, you're carrying
Oh
that
yeah.
baggage, all of that stuff from that
Yes.
previous relationship into life without even, unconsciously, not even being aware that that's what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I preach that all the
So
time.
I
You gotta take a breath.
yeah, like I
Now,
really wanted to take a moment for myself, just like
right.
I need to heal myself. So that's what Stardust is about.
Okay. Now, why name it Stardust? What is the symbolism of naming it Stardust?
So I put out this ideology that I wanted women to view themselves as like these spiritual beings. All right. So the whole
Mm-hmm.
ideology, it says that, sometimes as women, we love so wholeheartedly that we get caught up in somebody else's orbit and we forget that we are the stars, the light of the night sky.
Mm.
And so in Stardust, it's this whole, the way that I pose to women that I want them to think about themselves is that you're outer worldly. You're out of this world. We are spiritual beings.
Right.
Yes, we are embodied in flesh, but we are spiritual beings made of energy and light.
Right.
So it describes us as falling down because it says stardust from heaven to earth we fall.
Mm-hmm.
So we are these stars that come down from heaven that's fallen to earth, but we have to be clothed in this bodies of flesh and skin and flesh. And in this transition, a lot of
Okay.
times we forget who we are. And so Stardust is about reminding us that you got a whole universe inside of you. Your body is only limited by your mind. This is not who you are. It's so much more inside of you than the skin and the flesh. But if you see yourself outside of that, you can pull it out and you can manifest all kinds of things once you realize who you truly are.
After you said all that, one of the things you missed was a speaker, because you definitely should go around and speak this to a lot of women, because I see a lot of women battling themselves, battling, other people. As women, y'all take on so much, and I don't think people realize, and I always say, as um, a man is not truly successful without that woman by his side who's going to, the man is a visionary, that woman's going to help you get there, And so
Yeah.
I truly believe that a successful man has a strong woman behind him, or I take that back, in front of him, or right next to him, somewhere up in the front, but not
Right.
in the back. You get what I'm saying?
Somewhere in the mix.
Right. Because I hate when people say, they have a strong woman behind them. A woman shouldn't be behind you. Y'all should
Yeah.
be walking hand to hand, or right next to each other. Because y'all are one. And
Yeah.
you just put a lot. You just put a lot out just now. I love what you just said. So, with that, learning all of that about yourself and putting yourself out there in the book like you did, what was it that made you say, I want to put myself out there, I want people to see and understand my journey of who I am?
So I felt like it was more so of a obligation because, like I said, I went through that really hard breakup, And the
Mhm.
thing about that breakup, it wasn't even the fact that I had lost that person.
Right.
I had felt like I lost myself.
Mm.
Like I forgot
Right.
who I was. And so I
Gotcha.
had this like come to Jesus moment. And
Right.
in doing
Okay.
so, I literally had an epiphany, and so, and I felt with the things that I was learning and the way that I helped myself and come back to myself, that whole journey. If I felt like this is a journey that I had to undergo, that I took on, that I'm
Hmm.
sure that there's countless women that have gone through the same journey or starting the same journey. And just with that thought alone, I felt like I had a moral obligation to share what I discovered along my journey.
Do you feel like as a woman being in the industry of TV, author, that it's harder for you than anybody else?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why do you feel that way?
It's like, yeah. Um, One, because a lot of times, um, so I say that people that pursue greatness, they're often
Hmm.
lonely because you operate on such an elevated level that
Right.
9 times out of 10, it's hard for other people to reach that or even understand your processes. Um,
Right.
so even the way that you work, 'cause I'm a workaholic. And I know that that has probably been the downfall in a lot of my relationships because, I'll get so inspired or so um and just tunnel vision. Like I get set on a project. And if you have
Hmm.
someone that does not understand that, they're not going to understand your process. They're just like, I'm being neglected.
Right.
But like I really do, like if I set in and I target in and I'm going to hone in on like this is my option. I know this is what I need to be doing. Sometimes I do that. And sometimes it's
Okay.
hard for people that are not in the industry to understand that. Like if they don't have that kind of creative like drive or that creative focus, it's going to be hard for them to understand. Two, a lot of times if you have someone that's not in the industry, insecurities plays a lot of
Oh
plays a
yes.
part. So you have someone that's out here in the public eye. A lot of times it's hard for you to understand the attention that they get or to reconcile all of the attention that they get. So that's another thing. And
Right.
it's just like, oh, it's countless times, like even with my ex, I was just like, why are you worried about who wants me if you're the only one that I want? So it's just like, but in their mind,
Right.
what I'm saying? It's hard to reconcile that.
Right.
Yeah, so that definitely causes issues, that in itself. Um, and more than that, it's just like I'm a real down to earth person. A lot of times people meet me, they be like, "You're nothing like how I thought you were gonna be." Like I get that a lot. Um,
Right.
Now being in the industry, a lot of times I don't vibe well with a lot of people because I am the way that I am. Like I'm a realist. I don't like no fake. I don't like no superficial stuff. And you're in this industry, that is what you're surrounded by,
Right.
unfortunately. So
Right.
that in itself makes it harder as well. So
One of the things that I talk to people about all the time is that once you get into this industry, you automatically know you're not for everybody. Like I knew that you just know that because
yeah,
people like anybody who wants to just want you to come home, like get off work, come home at a certain time, eat dinner with the family, all that that's not your lifestyle. It's never it's never
yeah,
gonna it's never gonna work because we're in a whole different realm. And I say this right at the beginning of any situation I get into, any relationship, I say, listen, I could be free one weekend and on Monday I'm free that weekend. By Wednesday, I'm booked the whole weekend. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's just the lifestyle,
You see,
you know.
I am very domestic though. I am very domestic though. Like I'm very family oriented. Like that's the one thing about me. So like if I'm not
Yeah,
filming, if I'm not off on a book tour or something, like I'm absolutely my butt is in the
you're at
house and
home.
I'm
Right.
doing the Betty Crocker. I'm cooking, so I absolutely, I don't really go out unless I have to. If it's not work
Yeah.
related, then 9 times out of 10, I'm probably in the home. I'm in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I'm the same way. But then when you do those projects, those film projects or anything like
Yeah.
that, and you play a wife or a girlfriend,
Yeah.
and those situations come up, then you got to hear the backlash later from someone who don't understand how the industry works. So, I've been
Yeah.
there and done that. It's water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned, because
Right.
I'm not going to negotiate. I tell people all the time, I'm not going to negotiate my career with this relationship that we're just now getting started into. I had somebody tell me before, if we was to get married, would you stop, playing like the husband roles and stuff like that? I said, what? I said, no. Like, I'm not out here being totally nude and doing stuff like that, and I'm not doing no risque sex scenes and all that kind of stuff. But if I play a husband or a boyfriend, that's just part of the role. So you have to decide if
Yeah.
I'm someone that you can deal with. That's where
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with that.
Absolutely.
Right. Now,
Absolutely.
we talked about all your books except one of them. And the other one is Setting Fire to the Darkness, right? Setting Fire to
Yeah.
Darkness.
Yes.
Now, what is that book about?
Hmm. That's the romance one. That is the romance
Oh,
one. So
okay.
that is the very first
Okay.
book that I ever
Start that.
read.
Oh, Passion Fruit. That's the one. Passion Fruit.
Passion. So passion fruit, that is erotic poetry. And it's so funny because like a lot of times people go, you have like this aura about you. Like you don't try to be sexy, but you just come off that way. And so like for the longest, people were like, you should do a erotic poetry book. You really should do that. Like just your voice, the way everything. And so I finally broke down and I finally did that one. Um, so it
You
goes
like
over
eroticism. That's what it is.
I'm not gonna hold you up. Like I feel like I am. I walk that line. I do walk that
Right.
line.
Right.
I feel like that is power in it, though. I did have uh, um, that my lingerie line at one point, but I wanted to change the way the world viewed like women. Like I feel like it's such this taboo thing. Like you can't be all these things and still be sexy. And I
Right.
wanted to empower women, and I wanted you to like own your sexy,
Right. Right.
it's empowering when you can own it. And
Why do
so
women feel
that's
like
one of
they
the
can't be
things like,
sexy? Why do they feel
I
like they
don't
can't
know.
be
It's
sexy when
such
they
a
do that?
taboo thing where it's kind of looked down upon. And for me, even more so, like, so me to break the shell, just to give you a little background. Like I said, my dad is from the
Okay.
Philippines. So I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
So I grew up Catholic. I did the Sunday
Okay.
school. I did the catechism, the whole 9 yards. So it was certain things that in his culture that, even if you were a little bit risque, that it was viewed like so it's just like certain things that they frowned upon or they turned their noses down at. But yeah. Whew, like those old Filipino ladies. You're like, oh, she has on a minty skirt. So but yeah, so it was just like the way that they view certain things. And I always felt like it shouldn't be that. Like they feel
Right.
like, oh, you can't be sexy and still be morally sound. Why not?
Right.
Does that mean because, that I like to dress myself up that I have no morals? doesn't mean that I have no integrity, that I have no character, that I lack character.
Right.
So I just wanted to challenge that ideology.
Gotcha. And I think that's how you reach people, challenging them on the things that they feel like they can't accomplish, or that they're afraid to get into that area of their life, of their, of who they are as a person. You've definitely challenged them. So at some point you got into screenwriting. So how did that come about after
I
writing your
did.
book?
So, a lot of times people ask me, they'll be like, so you do the screenwriting, you do the book writing, would you consider yourself more of a author than an actress or a screenwriter? And I say, I'm a storyteller. At the end of the day, I love to tell stories. I feel like the book writing, I feel like the screenwriter is just different mediums in which I use to do that. So
Right.
like it's no different. I'm still telling a story. I'm carrying out this thing, and I love it. Actually, I enjoy the screenwriting more than I do the books. Don't tell all my book fans. But I actually enjoy the screenwriting better.
Now,
Yeah, because I know I've
what type of stories do you like to write in your screenwriting? Are you do you like to write love stories? Since you're so much into eroticism, I will assume you like to write love stories.
So I actually only have one that's a romantic screenplay. The other one,
Okay.
Revolt, is kind of like a dystopia idea. It talks about, it's set 20 years into the future.
Okay.
COVID has mutated to COVID 22.
Mm.
And the government has mandated this mandatory vaccine that they use to annihilate the African American race. But in turn, it awoken something inside of them called the God gene. So now anyone with melanism has power, have these superpowers. And so like it's war going on. So like that's that one. That one's called Revolt. The one that I am working on now is a psychological thriller.
Okay.
And it follows a African American Sunday school teacher who's actually this female serial killer that believes that she's on this mission from God to rid the world of like bad people. So it's kind of like this villain, but she's a villain, but you kind of love her at the same time because she's going after these really evil people. Sort of like Dexter.
Okay.
If you have. But yeah,
Right.
so she doesn't fit the profile. So they're not looking for her because there's, when do you ever see a female serial killer, an African American one that's a religious heretic? So that's the one that I'm getting ready to
You know
film.
what's
That I'm.
what's funny is that when I ask women what role would they love to play if someone called you and said, I got the perfect role for you. Is this, would you take it? They always want to be either a killer, some type of James Bond type killer or something, or a superhero. It's always one of the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Well, I
I'm
feel
gonna
like
ask you
Black
that
women
question.
are superheroes.
Hey, hey.
We are already superheroes.
Y'all, hey, I agree with you. I agree with you because women, y'all do some amazing things. Women do some amazing things. But if someone called you and asked you and said, "Hey, I got this role for you," what is your dream role that you would want to do that you haven't done yet?
Probably like a Tomb Raider.
Okay.
Like definitely I want to do a kick-ass action movie.
Okay. I get that sometimes. Also, an action film. So, with that being said, do you feel like you're gonna write an action film at some point, or are you going to stick to
So
like?
the revolt one is kind of like that. Like
Okay,
the main leader, she's like the vote leader. So she is definitely she's kicking butt and taking names.
played
But
by
yeah,
you.
she's pretty much all. Yeah, she's doing the samurai. She got her sword. She's doing like Michonne from The Walking Dead. All of
All
that.
right. Oh man. So and you working on that one right now?
So the one I'm working on now is The Dark Side of Beautiful. That's the psychological
Okay.
thriller with the female serial killer. So I'm gonna knock that one out first. And
Okay.
then after that one, I have I'm scheduled to do the romantic comedy one. That's kind of like the drama slash comedy.
Okay.
And then we're gonna do. I actually have one called Wicked Games, and it was funny because you had mentioned that one of your projects you were talking about human trafficking. So Wicked Games
Right.
is like a human trafficking organs harvesting ring. Like a soldier comes home from
Oh
Iraq and
wow.
she finds
Yeah.
herself like these organs harvesting ring, and she has to use her skill as a soldier to fight her way out. So then
Oh
it's that
wow.
one, which is called Wicked Game.
You
Yeah.
know, people don't
And then
understand how
Revolt.
real that is. People don't understand how real that is when the
Yeah.
harvesting, the human trafficking, that whole thing. When we did a show a couple of years ago, and we had some people in here and we were talking about human trafficking, and we got so deep in it that all of a sudden we started getting crazy calls coming in, because this is when we was in
Oh
studio,
yeah.
and people started calling in, and a guy actually called in and threatened everybody on the show that if we continue talking about it, we will all be hung from a tree in our backyard.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
we had to turn that footage in to the police to let them hear it. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is some real stuff. It is definitely a world that people don't like talking about, but it needs to be talked about.
Mhm. And see, that's one of the reasons why I wrote that one is I wanted to shed a light on it. More so, I did a lot of research on it before writing it.
Right,
So I talked about like how the women are getting captured. And that way,
right,
when people see the films, that is in the back of their mind, some of the things that
right.
they need to look out for. Like
Hmm.
when they're going out to certain places like clubs, when they're walking in parking lots
Right.
and, getting gas and all of these things. And then I also wanted to, put in some of the ways that you can escape, so that was like another one of my main reasons for like, doing that.
Okay. No, so what's been your biggest challenge, like in this whole industry, in your writing, um, being an actress? What has been your biggest challenge in those areas?
I feel like sometimes, like I said, it is people look at me and they off rip, they come to a conclusion, before I even
Okay.
open up my mouth or I say a single word. And so a
Right.
lot of times female writers, opposed to their male counterparts, aren't taken seriously, and
Right.
I'm real as one thing about me is that I step on a set and there will not be another person on that set that outworks me. I don't care if you're smarter than me. I don't care if you're more talented than me. You're not going to outwork me.
Right.
I feel like, and I will say this, and my worth ethic will speak for itself, and it will be unmatched. Because when I step on there, like I'm serious about my work. I'm serious about what it is that I do.
Right.
I take great pride in what it is that I do. I'm passionate about it. This is my livelihood. This is not a hobby for me. This isn't something that's fly by night that I'm just doing.
Right.
I want this. And so I work hard. And so a lot of times it's hard to be taken seriously,
Yeah.
especially like as an African woman in this industry. A lot of times it is hard to be taken seriously.
What is your ultimate goal? Like, so when you write a book, when you write a screenplay, what do you want people to take from it? whenever you put something out?
You know, one of the things that I say is that it's never been about like the money for me. Like I don't chase money. I
Right.
chase the fact that I can impact people's lives. And even if there's only one person that's read my book, like I've had people reach out to me and say, you know, I read Whiskey for the Wounded and it helped me through this really hard time. Or I've had people reach out to me about
Oh, wow.
Stardust and said, you know, like I had one young girl and she said, you know, she confided in me and said that, you know, she was to the point where she was actually having suicidal thoughts and
Oh,
that
wow.
my book helped her to like find herself. And like, so to hear something like that, for
Wow.
me, I feel like it's more rewarding than any accolade or any award or anything that I could ever win, is because I
Right.
genuinely, like, I want to touch people's life. I want to make an impact. I want to make sure that when I leave
Right.
this earth, that I've left a legacy, that I've done something in some way to make it better.
Wow. And that's the whole purpose of doing anything that you do. You should do it for that exact person, to change people's lives, especially in the industry that we're in. We're out in the forefront of everything. So we have the ability to change people's lives, to get them to see a different perspective, to get them to dream bigger. You know, I've had, the same thing. People have told me how much, even listen to the radio show. They listen to all my shows and they tell me how much it means to them to be able to listen and hear and understand what other people go through, understand all the things that they have to deal with in this industry, the learning they have to do, the healing within themselves, because this is a tough industry. It's not an industry that you can just walk into and be like, okay, I'm gonna just do this and it's gonna be what it is. This 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 is a this industry can be very hard and it can be very crucial.
Brutal,
Yes,
brutal,
yes,
downright brutal.
yes, yeah. So what
You know, I say you have to be anchored. You
yes, you
definitely
do.
need to be anchored.
You do. Now, you have children?
I have two teenage boys.
You
Lord
don't
help
even
me.
you don't even look like you had one child. but but how is it juggling and trying to do everything you're doing and holding down your boys as well?
Yeah, it is a struggle. One thing that I will say is that I have an amazing support system. I have my
Okay.
parents, and even with my ex-husband, even though we don't, you know, we hardly agree, but we kind of, you know, we agree when it comes to the kids. We're great at
Right.
co-parenting. You know, I
Okay.
say, um, when it comes to that aspect of it, you know, we do good. You know, we fail at everything else, but we do good at co-parenting.
Right. Right.
So, but yeah, you know, and that was one of the things too, is why I feel like I'm kind of just now um breaching the surface of getting back into the acting, getting back really into the
Right.
screenwriting and all of those things, is because like when my boys were younger, they were my priority. That was my main
Right.
focus. You know, I had to put everything else on the back burner. But you know, now they're getting to the point where they're about to be in high school. You know, they're becoming a little bit more self-sufficient. You know, I'm finding myself kind of just now getting back into all of those things because they don't need me as much.
Gotcha. And so do they look at a lot of the stuff that you do? Are your boys supportive of you, and are they proud of mommy and seeing what mommy does and everything?
Oh, absolutely. They're my biggest supporters. They'd be like, Ma, you got to do this. So like he'd be like, oh, you should try to get on this show. So yeah, they're definitely my supporters. They'd be like, yeah, my mom wrote this book, and you know, but yeah, those are my babies. They're definitely mama boys.
All right. And so now so you're a writer, you're a screenwriter, author. So what are your upcoming goals? Like, what are some things that you haven't done that you're teetering on and want to get into?
So definitely I want to get more, I want to really fully divulge myself into the the acting and the screenwriting, but I want to get into directing, I
Okay.
really want to do that. In my end goal in the perfect world where I see myself in 10 years is I want to open up my own studio. Like
Mm,
I want to Tyler
okay.
Perry, a Shonda Rhimes, where I have showrunners, but coming out of my own studio. Like I want one here in
Right.
Detroit. I feel like a lot of times anybody that comes from the city, we either have to move to Atlanta, we got to move to LA
Hmm.
to really get on. And I want
Right.
to make it to where people come here to get on. Like I want to create like this whole Black Hollywood, but here.
Right.
So like that is a monumental endeavor. But yes, that's one that I really set out to try to accomplish.
Yeah. Directing is fun. I love directing. I love producing. They're both a lot of work, but I love both of them. I love working hard. I love being tired when I'm doing something that I love to do. I don't mind being tired, but
Yeah.
I love the good and the bad of the industry. And I think that's when you're where you're supposed to be, when you can
Yeah.
deal with the bad and it's not, and you just like, okay, I whatever. And you just keep going and moving on with whatever it is that you're trying to do. Do you find?
I had
Go ahead.
I said I have this saying where I say that I will work at 80 hours so I never have to work 40.
That's a good saying. That's a really good saying. So you doing all this, and I know that you've expressed to me that people, they don't take you, they misjudge you when they first meet you, and that's been one of your biggest challenges. What has been some of the most positive things that you've gotten out of doing everything that you've been doing?
um, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I think you kind of went out there for a minute.
What are some of the most positive? Because I know one of the things you mentioned was the responses that you get from people when you write
Oh
your
yeah.
books and things like that. Um, what are some other things that are positive that you've acquired in doing everything you do in your career?
So the Stardust, I've kind of made it like an entire movement. So we have
Okay.
like weekend where we do like these gathering events where almost like women summits. And
Okay.
when we talk about like in some I'll read some of the poems out of Stardust, and we talk about woman empowerment and uplifting one another. And that's one of my main things. It's like I don't ever want to knock down another woman's crown. I want to help
Right.
place it firmly on your head. And so, like, I think another thing that we do is like I mentor other authors,
Okay.
women that are trying to get into writing and maybe they don't know where to start. I'm one of those things where I feel like God gives you blessings to be a blessing. So I
Right.
don't feel like the information or the knowledge that I've learned should end with me. I give it freely. And a lot of times it's not the case. Like, it's people I've reached out to and like they, almost as if they're threatened. There's certain things that they could have helped me or they could have gave me this lead or they could have given me this information and they don't.
Right.
And
Right.
like that's one of the things that I said that when I get into the position when I learn these things, I want to make sure that I
Hmm.
pass it on to other people. Like my journey should make it easier for the next woman to reach the same spot that I'm at. Like I do not feel like it's a threat. It's room enough for everybody. And
Yes.
I feel like, that I do something isn't going to be the way that you do it anyway.
That's true. That's true. So you have done quite a bit, and I'm excited for everything that you got going on. Um, if you could give everybody who's listening a bit of advice on as a woman who is going through this career, what would that be?
Stay the course. There's going to be times where you get discouraged, and in those
Okay.
moments, you need to remember the reason why you stopped. But yeah, don't give up. If this is truly what you want to do, you have to want it. And I mean that, like, you have to want it as much as you want to breathe. Because if not, you're not going to make it.
That's true. That's very true. How can people reach you if they want to buy a book or, you know, talk to you about doing some screenwriting for them? What is your social media platform and connections?
I can be found on IG. I'm on all of the social medias across the board. It's author J M Pozon. On IG is author _ Marie. And on Facebook, Twitter, it's just Author J M Pozon.
Okay. And we got just a short
Or is,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
No, I was just
we
gonna
got a
say,
little...
oh.
You got it. Go ahead, take the floor.
No, you said where could they find the books, but the books is on Amazon as well as Barnes and Nobles. That's all I was gonna say.
Okay, nice. Now, real quick, can you read one of your quotes? Because you was talking about being able to read a little bit of your poetry, and I would want to give you the opportunity to read a poetry from one of your books if you want.
Absolutely. So this one is from Stardust. This is the Stardust,
Okay.
my woman empowerment book. And this particular poem is called Hidden Gems.
Okay.
Oh, darling, how did you ever expect for a man like him to understand the value of a woman like you? So tried and true, heart pure as gold, born with the magic in your veins and stardust in your bones. See, you must understand that you are a queen meant only for a king. So when you go where you aren't meant to be, your value will forever remain unseen. You'll be like the brightest of diamonds or the rarest of gems in a land full of blind men. And truth be told, they could have you in the palms of their hands and still not understand that which it is that they hold. There you guys.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that. And that was from her book, Stardust. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to go get the book. Make sure you go support her. Copy all her books, Stardust, Whiskey for the Wounded, Setting Fire to Darkness, and Passion Fruit. You know, make sure you go check her out. And what's the website again that they can go to and order your book?
Amazon or Barnes and Noble. I'm on both.
Okay. And make sure you go and make sure you follow her, go support her. She's doing some amazing things. And you know, I'm looking forward to being a part of one of her film projects. You know, I'm just gonna throw it out there in the air right now.
Looking forward to
you know. Well, we're gonna have to work together. So I look forward to that. On that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, J M Pozon, for coming on to the show. I've been wanting to get you on for a while. You're doing some amazing things once again. I look forward to working with you one day or doing something together. We got to do something together at some point, you know. So,
thank you
no doubt.
for having me.
No doubt, man. All the information you gave and the knowledge you gave for women and your journey and stuff is admirable. So Continue to do your thing. We're gonna, WCEG, we're gonna be supporting you all day, every day. So, keep
Love it.
doing it, keep doing your thing, and I got your back. I got your back. On that note, this is Wardell Richardson on WCEG Wood, Hollywood of the South. We getting ready to sign off. God bless, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks.